All right. Good evening. Nice to see all of you for live stream tonight. We're going to keep on going. If you are here for the first time, look at the screen. We've got kind of a slogan. This is going to be a time that is refreshing as we spend time together, eating in fellowship, dining, the whole full experience. We're going to learn tonight all kinds of things, and hopefully God will work in your heart and you will become all that God has called you to be. Live streams, the inspiration comes from Psalm 1, where the blessed man is described like a tree that is planted by the streams of water. And what we do on Wednesday nights is we have little mini-series so that, it takes a while to warm up to a topic. And so we have been on this mini-series now for 4 weeks. It's called Life Crisis. So 4 weeks of crisis. How much fun is that? All right. So we're going to continue on. Let's track where we have been. Our first lesson was on just understanding the crisis. Do you remember this picture? I said our life is like a big warehouse with all kinds of boxes, and those boxes represent experiences and thoughts and maybe even unreconciled issues. We pack them in boxes and we store them in our warehouses. Now, some of our warehouses don't look as neat as that, but you know what I mean, right? We pack them up and we put it away, and we consider that there's a lot of stuff in those boxes. And in our first lesson, there's a review of all the things that we looked at as contributing factors to a life crisis. But we ended that first lesson by saying that none of these things are the actual cause of a life crisis. Now, they contribute, but they're not the actual cause. And so we ended by saying, what is that actual cause? Well, we came back the second week and we confirmed what that actual cause is. We said it's not any of those things, but we said the actual cause is, do you remember? Your response. It's your response to the situation, because truth is, God actually allows and schedules in all kinds of things, challenging things into your life. It's not a freak accident, but it's actually by design. And so it's really your response, or how you respond to the situation, that is the actual cause, and that is a decision that you make. Let's keep on tracking. In lesson 3, that was last week, we had a special presentation on a relationship crisis. Talked about love. John Stewart was up here, remember? That was last week. And all these presentations will be posted on our website. You can go there right now if you don't want to listen to me. Go to our website. There's all kinds of good stuff there to download, and all of our videos and audios and hot chocolate for the kids. It's all going to be there. Livestreamsonline.net. Okay? So tonight we're going to wrap up the mini-series, but before I tell you what tonight's topic is, number 4. Here's number 4, and this is our final installment, and we're going to move on to a new mini-series. Here's number 4. We're going to talk about finding a connection tonight. And this final installment is intended to balance out the previous 3 lessons. Now, the previous 3 has been about you, your response, what you have to do, you, and rightly so. There's a tremendous emphasis on your responsibility, but tonight's lesson balances it out, because it's important for you to see the other side of the balance, because there's another whole dynamic where other people come into your life and help you through a crisis. So I didn't want to end this mini-series without making that very clear to you. It's not you by yourself, all alone, in the privacy of your room, trying to figure this out. But God's design is for other people to come into your life and help you out. But let's warm up to this by using those 3 categories that are in your pop quiz. Take a look at the screen. Disconnected is the first category underneath it. Listen. Life crisis can suddenly make you feel alone. You know what I mean? It's like one moment you felt like you were part of the world or like everybody else, but all of a sudden, if something major happens, like you find out that you have some health situation like cancer, or someone in your family passes away, or just some freak accident of sorts. Suddenly, you feel all alone. You feel like nobody else can understand you. You know what I'm talking about? It's an amazing thing how it can switch all of a sudden. Now, you could be surrounded by people, but for some reason, that crisis makes you feel like you're in a bubble and that you are now all alone. And this sudden disconnection can be an ongoing experience that can really impact your life. Now, truth is, Roger, thank you, that people are all around us. All right, let's put this up. Yeah. All around us are people. Have you made paper chains when you were young? You haven't seen a chain anything like this one. All right. It's all right, Roger. You don't have to fix it. This chain is not pretty at all. All right. Put this chain up here. Okay. Roger, put that stand all the way towards the back. Take it back. Push it back. More. Go back. There you go. And tie it to the leg of the table there. Pull your, okay. You got it now. Not a pretty chain, is it? Take a look. Some people are connected. Some people are not. Some people are barely hanging in there. You know what I mean? Some people look okay. What's going on here? Okay. You see, truth is that this is a much better reflection of life. This could also be a reflection of the church. Some people in the church are very connected. Other people are not. Some people are just going to fall out and disappear. And so that is the truth. Many people today are very, very disconnected. And so disconnection is a very serious problem that we have right now. But tonight, let's confirm that not everybody sees disconnection as a problem. Some people actually want to be disconnected. You know what I mean? When they go through a crisis, they don't want anybody to find out, or they don't want to talk about it, especially the male species. Now, the other gender, they understand this better, and so they're more favorably disposed to being connected to others. You know what I mean? When they have trouble, they often want to, and it's a generality, but speaking in generalities because it's generally true. But for the male species, oftentimes they don't want anybody to know. It's just a general statement. You see, all our lives, maybe ladies, this will help you understand why guys are the way they are. All our lives, we're told to hold it in. And we get criticized if we let it out. For example, do you remember when you were young? It's like, okay, don't cry, all right? Don't cry. So we are negative towards boys who cry. You know what I'm talking about? If girls cry, we're kind of okay with it, or we understand. But if boys cry, we're like, oh, come on now. You're crying like a little girl, okay? And so we are very critical of that situation. And so what do we tell boys? Hold it in, okay? Don't let it out. Hold it in, okay? That's better. Okay. Hold it in, okay? Don't let it out. Be a man. And so as you grow through your life, you begin to develop this understanding that to be a man is to not let it out, to hold it in. Deal with it yourself, and don't bother other people with it. And so the man grows up, and when he goes through a hard time, what does he do? He's told to suck it up and just keep on going. And so that's what he does. You know, it's like, that's why you see the different ways in the way that men and women deal with situation. And women sometimes don't understand, but that's kind of how guys are, you know. Take, for example, this really silly example of bumping your finger, okay, or hurting your finger. If a girl hurts her finger, okay, it's just a stereotype, right? It's like, ow, okay? And then her friends say, are you okay? No? Okay, come on over here. Like I broke a nail. And so she holds a press conference, right? Tells everybody, I broke a nail. I just did my nails. Oh, man, that's gonna leave a mark. Oh, man, just did a manicure today. Can't believe it. oh man, come over here, take a look at this. So that's how girls are. In other words, it's okay to freely express pain. You know what I mean? How does a guy do it? Watch. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Ow. Yeah, I'm fine. So you see what I mean? You see the difference because guys are told to what? Hold it in and not let it out. I'm fine. So the true story goes that, I think I told this story before, but it's worth telling because you see it in all situations in life. This guy, his engagement broke, and he was absolutely devastated. But you know what he did? He went into his room, and he didn't come out for a month. He stayed in his room, not talking to anybody, no phone calls, no emails. It's like, where did the guy go? He completely disappeared. No emails and no texting, no going out, no talking. It's like a bear going into hibernation, right? It's totally in hibernation. There he is, hibernating. And then winter comes, okay? He's in there, I think. And then spring comes, oh look, he's out now, okay? He finally comes out. So the truth is, or in this story, after a month, he just comes out and he's like, all right, I'm fine, let's go. So nobody talks to him, he doesn't talk to anybody, and that's how he deals with the situation. Tonight, we're talking about disconnection, being disconnected. And I'm saying that for a lot of people, they're like, well, what's the problem? I don't want to talk to anybody, okay? I want to be disconnected. Don't talk to me about the situation. Now, not every man, but I'm just saying generally a lot of people, and even women, a lot of women are wired that way. They don't want to talk about it. They want to put it away and not talk about it at all. And so what do? If they have a problem, whatever life crisis they have, it's like a box. And inside that box are all the things that they do not want to talk about. Don't talk to me about these things. Let's see what's in here. You got, what's that say? Hurt feelings, anger. Oh, I don't want to talk about this. Okay. Don't make me talk about it. Okay. Oh, I definitely do not want to talk about this. Okay. And I am not going to shed one of these. Okay. And this last one, boy, I am. Don't make me. I'm not going to talk about it. Okay. And so guys, just generally speaking, and ladies too, there are people like that. A lot of people like that. Put it in boxes. And what do? Where am I going to go? Where am I going to put this box? Because I don't want to. I don't want to talk about it. Where am I going to put it? So they take the box and they put it somewhere safe. Every once in a while, they look back at the box and their friends say, you all right? Oh, yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine. Look back at it. They not want to talk about those things. Because those things are put away. Now listen, none of those things are reconciled. None of those things are dealt with. There's all kinds of nasty stuff in there, but they don't want to open it. They do not want to touch it at all. And so the man, the woman, stays disconnected from others, but the point is, that's the way they like it. And so what do you do with that? They don't want anybody to talk to them. And so their wives or their husbands say, honey, you need to go talk to someone. They're like, why? I've dealt with it. Okay? Why do I need to talk to someone? Or their wife might say, you need some fellowship. And the guy's like, I don't need fellowship. Why do I need fellowship? That's a standard guy response, right? I don't need fellowship. You need that fellowship stuff. You go out and you socialize and do all that. I don't need that. I'm fine, just me and Jesus. And so, what do you say to somebody who says, I don't need fellowship? I'll respond to that in a little bit. But the point is, right now, with disconnection, it's all about kind of staying that way. Don't bother me. I don't want to be connected to other people. And so the question tonight, are you disconnected? Are you in your own little bubble? Did you check that box that says conclusion? I am disconnected. Let me tell you tonight, that is not God's plan for your life. God's plan for your life is to be connected, is to be so connected that you are, well, let's use an example from the Bible. The Bible actually says in Ephesians chapter 2, verse 21, in Him the whole building is joined together and rises to become a holy temple in the Lord. Here the Apostle Paul uses the analogy of a building that is built. And God is the divine bricklayer. And what He is doing is He is putting together this building, and you are the bricks. And He is going to build this massive building. And so I've got some bricks here. We're going to build a building. Yes, we are. God is the divine builder. And He is going to build this building. And this building is going to grow big and big. More and more people come to faith. It's God's will that they all be connected together. And so the building is built. Got a lot of bricks here. A lot of bricks. Notice in that verse, it says, joined together. That word's a very unique word in the original Greek. It has to do, actually it's a professional word that is used of architects. And in the original, it means exactly fitting together. And so the idea is it's not just slapped on, but it says exactly, let me fix this here. Exactly fitted together. God is the master architect, and He's not just going to slap on the bricks, but He's going to do it just right so the people's lives are exactly fitted together. How's that look? Good? That's God's design. The reality is, not everybody in the church is that well connected together. But this is God's plan because He is the master architect. And so to those people who like to be disconnected, don't want to be connected, this is what I want to say. In fact, there's 3 things that I want to say to them, or you can say to them. The first thing you want to say is, you are not following the master plan. Okay? You might like to be disconnected, but that's not the master plan. And as a believer, it's your job to follow God's plan, right? It's pretty simple, but that has some incredible truths in it. We can't just make up whatever we want or live the life any old way that we want. The master plan is for us to all be connected together. Your plan might be to just pack it up and not deal with that box. But God's plan is for you to actually open that box and deal with the issues. Not live with the issues, not go 20, 30 years with an issue against somebody, but actually deal with those issues. And so that's God's plan. But truth is, people don't do that, right? Listen, when you go through a life crisis, what happens is you slowly go through the process of being disconnected. And I see this all the time in counseling. And sometimes people in counseling always say things like, well, you know what, maybe if I just move to a better place, and get a fresh start. Let me tell you something. Grass is not always greener on the other side of the hill. In fact, those who move somewhere to get a fresh start, it is so dangerous. Do you know why? You go to a brand new area, you don't know anybody. You don't have a home church. You don't know anybody, and there's no support system whatsoever. So you can almost see it coming. They move to a new area. This happens all the time. And they become even more isolated. Can't find a church. They don't have friends. They have nobody to look after them. And so what happens is they slowly start falling away. You can see it coming. They're not connected. And so they fall away. God's plan is for us to be connected, but the truth is, not everybody is. Truth is, some people, oh, did this person, I didn't even see this person fall. But that's what happens. I didn't know. This person's barely hanging in there. What if this person moves somewhere? Right? These things happen all the time. People underestimate the power of disconnection. And so tonight, this is the other side of the balance, okay? This series is not just about you, and what you got to do to pull yourselves up by the bootstraps, but it's you finding the connections in your life to help you through these very difficult situations. So, do you see me push these bricks off the table? People fall away. And when that happens, this is the second thing you say to somebody who says, hey, I don't need a connection. I say, you know what? Your situation will get worse and worse. If you leave it alone, and if you guys have been with us since the beginning of the live streams, and we're talking about the fall season, last season, we talked about how sin in your life and unreconciled issues just continue to grow, right? And it gets worse and worse, and you probably have experienced that already. So someone who is disconnected, well, it's going to get worse and worse. And next thing you know, you are even more alone, and you just sort of fall off and disappear. Okay? God's plan is for you to be connected in a very strong way. We'll talk about what that means a little bit later, but right now we're still warming up to this idea of being disconnected. So, to the people who say, well, you know what? I really don't need that. Hey, there's two things here that are very important for you to consider, and there's one more. To the person who says, I don't need fellowship, that's a standard guy reaction. I have women coming up to me all the time and saying, my husband says he doesn't need fellowship. What do I say to him? So this is a standard guy response. And my response to that, first of all, is fellowship is not socializing. When guys, again, guys are not that complicated, but usually when guys say they don't need fellowship, what they're really saying, translation is, I don't need all that socializing and chit-chat and stuff like that. You know what? Fellowship is not socializing. And I think the reason why guys think that is because we're abusing that word every single day. You know, like guys play ball and they call that fellowship. That's not fellowship. You know what playing ball is? It's called playing ball. All right? Don't call it fellowship. Or that time when you get a donut and coffee and you chit-chat. That's not fellowship. That's donut time, all right? That's all it is. And I know one guy every Sunday, man, he gets the biggest donut. It's like the size of this iPad, all right? Hey, that's not fellowship. That's just donut time. So stop using the word fellowship. Because fellowship in the Bible is none of those things. And nothing wrong with playing ball, right? And nothing wrong with donuts. Well, we'll talk about that later, but you know what I mean? The point is, it's not fellowship. Fellowship in the Bible is accountability. Fellowship in the Bible is deep accountability, where you are so connected to somebody that you enter that person's life. And now your prayers are very specific for that person. You're helping that person through counseling, challenging them, confronting them about their sins, inspiring them, encouraging them, and all of that good stuff. That is fellowship, or another word is accountability. And we need to keep that word fellowship at a high level and stop watering it down to include all that other stuff that you do that's fine, but is not fellowship. And so when you think about all the things that true fellowship is, the response should be by everyone, I need that, okay? I need that in my life because I cannot do it by myself. Well, God never intended for you to do it by yourself. And so your response should be tonight, yeah, I need that. I need to be joined together. And that's God's plan for you. The master bricklayer wants every brick to be joined together. But truth is, some are not. What are we going to do? Let's keep tracking. And let's say tonight, our final installment is about three things. It's about disconnection, being disconnected, being connected, and last but not least, being a connector. Being a connector is very important because this mini-series is not just a call to the few people scattered around here who are going through some serious stuff, but really it is a call to everyone. Now, thank God if you are not going through a life crisis right now. But God's call to you, even in this life crisis, is for you to see the people in your life who are going through a hard time and seeing what you can do to help them get connected again. Because that's the first thing that happens when you go through a crisis, is you feel alone. You feel separated. And so, what's the job of the people who are not going through the crisis? They got to be connectors. They got to go after knowing that that's exactly what happens to those people. They're completely separated, but it's your job now to look on the floor and see all the people that are disconnected. What are you going to do? Let me give you a pop quiz question right now. Not on the quiz, but just in your mind, go ahead and answer this question. Do you know someone in the church right now, neighborhood, family, who is going through a real hard time right now? Do you know somebody? Name that person in your mind. Okay? You don't have to write it down, but just name the person in your mind. It's very important for us who are not going through a crisis to identify those people and try to find some way to get them connected. Now, you may not be the one that ultimately counsels them or helps them out of their situation, but there are things you can do to help facilitate that situation. So look around and see the people. There are a lot of people that need to be encouraged and challenged. And Roger, come on up here for just a sec. He doesn't know I'm going to do this. Come on up. Okay? Some people...
Oh, thank you.
That's it, Roger. You can go back now. Yeah. Can you do that? Can you slap somebody? Can you slap some sense into that person with love, of course? I'm talking about doing it in love in such a way that they're going to say, hey, what'd you do that for? But have you ever confronted somebody in love and they actually said, hey, thanks. I needed that. King David recognized it. He actually talked about being slapped. Sorry, Roger, but it was done in love, I assure you. King David said, let a righteous man strike me. It is kindness. Let him rebuke me. It is oil on my head. My head will not refuse it. Wow. And so there has to be, and now look at the screen, this is a righteous man doing that, right? So we're talking about righteous slapping, all right? We need some righteous slappers. We need people who genuinely care for other people. Because listen to me, if you watch somebody who is just floundering in their sins, and you let them do that, or you watch that person flounder for years and years, is that love? You watch somebody waste away, is that love? But if you actually challenge that person saying, hey, enough is enough, it's time for you to get up and do something. That's kind of like slapping some sense, right? That's a good thing. And so tonight, we're talking about having the courage and tough love to go to people. And again, there's a right way to do it. You go to people and you actually strike them with love. And what an important thing that is. Because there are a lot of people, you know what? They're going to need to hear it. There are a lot of people that are falling away. And so you know what? What we have to do is we have to pick them up. This is a process of helping one another. Now in the Bible, there are a lot of verses that have the phrase one another, where you are helping one another. In fact, I'm going to put them on the screen right now, because as you start helping one another, it is a process of working within God's design to actually build His building. So let's do this. I'm going to put it on the screen and you read it, and I'm going to pick up all the fallen bricks. What was the first one? Being devoted to one another. Next one? Yeah. Next one? Oh, here's one. Oh. What's the next? Yeah. God's plan is to join together. What's the next one? Yeah. All right. How's that look? Pretty good, huh? In fact, the Apostle Paul, who created many of these one another statements, he saw the vision of people helping one another. The local church was just starting out, and so it was very important that they understood that they were accountable to one another. And so he peppered the local church with all kinds of commands that the scholars called one another commands. In fact, there are a total of 58 one another commands. And so the question that we have to answer tonight is, are we one anothering? Are we doing that? I know it's not a real word, but you know what I mean. Are we doing that? We should be accountable, connected to one another. So, are you one anothering? Are you doing that tonight? Are you a connector? Did anybody check that box tonight? Now, I know some of you did, because some of you guys are very active in that process, and that is a great thing. In fact, that's really a higher purpose, right, or a higher level. But we've said many times in live streams that it's about finding the higher purpose for our lives. And so seriously consider that tonight. Well, we've got so much to talk about, and that clock is always against us. So we need to wrap it up by saying that there you go. There it is. I know we've got so much to talk about, but we're looking forward to future opportunities throughout live streams to talk about these things. But those are the 4 things that we talked about in this series. May God bless you as you continue to think and meditate and find ways that you guys can connect. And if you are going through some serious crisis right now, you can find others around you, because there are plenty of people in our church and other churches that can help you get back on track again. Well, we are going to spend about 7 minutes, because we're just a couple minutes behind schedule, where John and I just talk. It's unscripted, it's spontaneous, and John, come on up. Dan, turn on some music, and this is what we're going to do. It's called Crosstalk, and it's an opportunity for us to just talk about the things that I just talked about and get you guys thinking. Okay, John, come on up.
Very, very interesting. Very interesting. By the way, Roger, I'm going to give you one of my business cards. That was battery. It's a tort.
Interesting, but pretty basic stuff. Huh?
Basic stuff.
Basic stuff.
There's a song that Lori likes by a group called Casting Crowns called Slow Fade. And I give a message out of Matthew 26 when Jesus told the disciples, you're going to fall away from me. But falling away, being disconnected, doesn't happen in an instant. It's a process, isn't it? That we have to turn it around.
That's a very interesting question, because I think what you're identifying is definitely very real. So it is a process. The Bible talks about kind of a slow degeneration and how you let yourself go. Even Hebrews chapter 2, verse 1 talks about just drifting away. And there's no rhyme or reason, but you just let yourself go like a boat that just drifts away with no direction. So that's very real. But it's interesting that you brought up the disciples, because sometimes it's not slow, but sometimes it's like you're just blindsided and then something dramatic happens. Because in that situation with the disciples, Matthew chapter 26, Peter, right, he's like, everybody else will scatter, or everybody else will desert you, but I never will, right? Jesus says, tonight, this very night, you will disown me 3 times. And so sometimes things happen and it's not slow and degenerative, but you're just exposed, and it just happens like overnight or right then and there within hours. So I think it's a number of different ways that this can happen.
When we think of falling away, and you talked about the issue of accountability, well, to bounce back and to get in line with what Scripture tells us to do, we have to want to be connected. What about people who have trouble wanting to be? It's just easier not to be. How does somebody say, I don't want the fellowship, I don't want that, I'm happy the way I am? How do you deal with the want-tos?
Well, in counseling, okay, we get that kind of reaction in all different forms, John. It's not just this topic, but whatever. Forgiveness. I don't want to forgive. Or love or any action because, quite frankly, can anybody think of anything in the Bible that's easy to do? Anybody? I cannot think of anything in the Bible that's easy to do or natural. It's all difficult to do. So what you're really asking is pretty basic but classic because it's all hard to do and we all don't want to do it, right? It's the flesh that wars against God's commands. So in those situations, I think it's very important to separate feelings from the faith that tells you it's right to do it even if you don't want to do it. And I think it's important that you appeal to the mind and even to the heart and not so much the emotions to say, you know it is the right thing to do. Because listen, you leaving your wife is not the right thing to do. Or you saying, I don't want to forgive, that's not the right thing to do. You might say you don't want to do it, but I didn't ask you if you want to do it. I'm asking you to do the right thing whether you feel like it or not. And so that's the direction where you have to go, where you're not saying, yeah, I hear you, man, I don't want to do it either, and kind of degenerate that whole thing into, because you don't want to buy into that whole thing about feeling-oriented obedience. You can obey whether you feel like it or not.
Related to that, a lot of people here want to be a connector. They want to help people. Lori and I do a lot of traveling, and over again we hear if you're with someone who's a child, if there's an emergency, you put your oxygen mask on first, and then you take care of those who are dependent on you. Is it a true statement? You can't bring anybody closer to Christ than you are yourself. So if we want to be a connector, we first have to be connected, get close to Christ.
Yeah, that is one side to it for sure. You have to get yourself right in order to help people. There's a lot of scriptures about how that you need to be equipped. So for sure, that's definitely true. Also on the other side, to the person who is looking for help and so forth, there's the biblical principle that he has to look for somebody who is more mature and equipped so that he can get out of that situation. So yeah, it really is a two-way street where the person is looking for someone better, but the person who is helping has to also fully equip himself. And John, you're asking some classic stuff because it's like even the husband that has to love his wife. Well, how's he going to do that if he's not equipped in any way? If he doesn't even understand Ephesians 5, loving his wife as Christ loved the church. If he's not equipped, if he's not learning the Word of God, there's that passage there about washing her with the Word, right? How's he going to do that if he doesn't know the Word of God? So really, that's some pretty classic stuff you're talking about here.
And let me go back one chapter to Ephesians 4, and I think you and Stan would appreciate this, that so often we would call you the ministers. That's just not biblically sound. You're the equipper of the saints, and we, the saints, are to do the work of the ministry. That sheep produce sheep, shepherds don't produce sheep. So you teach, you counsel, but we're the ones who are out there reaching people for Christ.
Yeah, that's a huge topic. We need to do a little mini-series on that. Huge topic there, John. So yeah, absolutely true.
Now, the issue of accountability. What about accountability as being a way to stay connected?
What do you mean more specifically?
Well, let's just say that we're constantly needing to be connected. It's not something we can say, okay, I was connected today, and then tomorrow, it's like manna. We need it fresh every day. Yeah. How do we regularly stay accountable?
Oh, boy. There's so many aspects to that question, from how busy our lives are to making time. You got to do that for your family, as well as accountability situations. There's so many situational factors that you would have to consider. So case by case, taking that person's life and seeing the things in his life that are hindering him or entangling him, as Hebrews chapter 12 says. Or that's keeping him from running the race, so to speak. Yeah, you need to do those things. But also to put that accountability into everyday situations, because Titus chapter 2, which talks about the older teaching the younger and so forth, if we had time, we'd look at that. It's just a very real situation, not some sterile classroom, but it involves the situations of their life, their schedules, and some pretty just everyday stuff. So got to find ways to build that accountability in, not just formal seminary-style classroom settings, But in that person's life, and I think we got a long way to go in the church and coming up with ways to come up with connections that can just be custom fitted into people's life, their lifestyles, their schedules, and so forth like that. So
You touched on one other area that's, I think it's a sensitive area, and that is confronting people who we know have faded away. They're falling away. James talks about converting a sinner, hiding a multitude of sins. Scripture has a lot to say about that. That's a tough one because it will seem like we're coming across as holier or somehow that we have it all together, and we don't. Mm-hmm. We're sinners saved by grace.
Yeah. And also, John, I think part of it is because our modern concept of confrontation is so negative. I mean, the word confrontation, it has such a negative connotation to it. But in the Scriptures, the word confront, nuthateo, actually has so many important nuances of gentleness and love and care. And again, what I said towards the tail end, how can you say you love somebody while you watch somebody degenerate for years? That's not love. And so again, yeah, I don't know what to do about our English word confront, but the biblical concept of confronting sin does involve love and does also involve winning that person over so that your relationship with that person is restored. Because if it involves a marriage that's broken down or what have you, you both lose. So now you're not just now watching one person flounder, but now you both lose because the marriage is destroyed. Now, I'm thinking of Matthew 18, where it says, if your brother sinned, go and show him his fault. But that's not as nasty or bad as people might think it is. Because that verse ends with the goal of doing that. You have won your brother over. And so it does involve, I think, a lot of love. And I think it's important for us to think about the biblical concept of slapping, okay? It was, and you see King David welcoming that. He's like, my head is not going to refuse it. So it's something I think we need to learn. And that's where it always starts. Okay?
I think we're out of time.
We are out of time. Good talking to you.
Okay.
Well, the beauty of live streams is that we always have another session, Lord willing. And so we're going to continue on. Right now, we are going to move on. And at this time is going to be a 5-minute intermission. If you have a preschooler, you need to get home, put the little ones to bed, this is your chance. If you don't take them, we keep them for 30 more minutes. They go to the gym and have a great time. Now, for the rest of you who don't have a little one here, please stay because John has a very special show today. John, what do you got coming for us today?
I got someone who's an old friend who actually, I won't tell the whole story now, gave me my start in radio, and just somebody who I respect and admire.
Sounds really good.
I'll introduce him in just a moment.
Okay, great. Let's take a 5-minute break, get a refill, and we'll have John's radio show. We'll see you back in 5 minutes.